Well, we're back out on the porch because it's on the steps. It's 70 degrees, so or it will be. Right now it's 61, so it's getting there. Yeah, I made a video a while back about human beings being tool makers, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit today with the most important tool that we pay attention to. It's not the most important tool, but it's the one we pay attention to a lot. Right here. This is it. Now, the most important tool you have is up here. This is one of the things that drives me nuts about people. Like, oh, you daydreaming? You know, most of the stuff that you see in front of you came from that. Daydreaming, creative thinking. It's important. So this is the most important tool. And I've said this before, and I'll do a video on it at some point, that knowing yourself is more important than almost anything else, because it's the calibration of the most important tool. But before we get to that, I want to talk about handshakes, because it's something that I see going rapidly downhill with the younger generation. I'm not picking on you guys, but I think you've never been shown why this is relevant. And to be fair, you know, generations before you did this out of habit. They don't understand it. So I'm going to give you a little insight into my opinion as to why this is relevant. Now, the thing that makes us different from all other animals: opposable thumbs, prehensile hands, the ability to put things together and make tools. We are tool makers. Of all the evolutionary adaptations that we could have picked, we picked that one. It seems to bother people because we don't like being animals. So we want to deny our evolutionary nature, which is weird because a lot of people recognize that certain things in nature you can't change. You can't change your sexuality. You are what you are. You know, it took us forever to figure that one out. There's a lot of behaviors that human beings, they want to blame it on society or culture, and I think it's actually that they're animal things. So again, this tool helps you build other tools. There are some human beings who are not going to get this, and it is what it is. If you get it, great. So this is a tool, okay? When you shake hands, it's part of the patriarchy. No. You're missing it. You're missing it. It's not very simple like that. It's not. You can't just put it in a category. You know, the Manichaeans, which were Gnostic dualists. I don't know what that is. Well, you should, because they actually had more influence on modern society than you could possibly imagine. They used to clasp each other by the right hands. So did the Cathars. And it was symbolic to say we alone are saved because we know the truth. You should also know that those groups, there was no gender issue. They saw men and women as absolutely equal for the most part, and they didn't have any condemnation of sexuality. Again, it has to do with the tool. When you meet someone, you're trying to understand what they are. It's one animal meeting another. You ever seen two dogs sniff each other's asses? Do you know why? Scent glands back there, they can tell a lot about the health of the animal. They can tell what the animal's eating. They can tell where they've been. They can learn a lot about emotion. All these things come through. Again, this is our greeting. So you clasp each other, tool maker main thing, to the other tool maker's main thing. This is your main tool. What are you doing? You're extending yourself. It's both an extension that makes you, it opens you up to attack, and it opens them up to attack. Most human beings are right-handed, okay? The vast majority, like rabbits. Most rabbits are right-handed. Did you know that? If a rabbit goes out to avoid a predator, they run in a circle. They'll go in the direction of which side's the dominant side. Way over 80% of rabbits go right because they're right-handed. 75% of all human beings when walking into a store go right. What's the relevance? Dominant side. I'm giving you my most important tool, second most important tool, because this is the most important. Maybe not on me, but in general. I'm giving you my most important tool. If you f this up, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm gonna die. I'm already submitting, but I'm not. It's an even-handed thing, no pun intended. I am placing my tool, my number one tool, in the grip of your number one tool. Holy shit. That's a big deal. Now, when I do this, there's a few things going on. We're measuring each other, okay? In polite society, There shouldn't be a test of strength. These things all happen subtly. And if you're one of the younger generation, you're like, well, it's just dumb. No, it's more complicated, and you're apparently not smart enough to figure it out. So pay attention. Maybe you'll learn something. We clasp each other's hands. Now, if you're wildly weaker than I am, I have the ability to crush you. We're in a civilized society. I also don't know what other tools and attributes you have. And to show this idea that we're going to meet on even ground, I am handing you my most impressive tool. I'm also letting you measure it. You can tell whether or not it's calloused, you can tell how strong I am, you can feel if something's missing. All of that's acceptable. That's part of how we measure each other. What else should I be doing? If I'm looking down, am I giving you respect? Probably not. I'm also showing submission. If I want to be an equal with you, I have to look you in the eye. Okay? Why? Intent. The eyes are the windows to the soul, right? They're also the windows to the brain. Again, our most important tool. I want to see if the person I'm shaking hands with is of the same mental capacity as me. I want to see if they're on the level with me. I want to see if their mind is right or how clear it is. So I'm looking at them. I'm looking at them from micro expressions. I want to see what their face does. I also want to see what their eyes does. And this is complicated because at the same time, I want to project to them, especially in civilized society, that I come in peace. I want you to get a measure of me, but I want you to know I have no ill intent, unless of course you want me to. That's a huge measuring game. It's very important shit. And now, more than ever, I get these, it's probably no surprise that they're overweight, dressed weirdly, and smell funny. Young people come in and they give you like a wet fish. And most people, that makes you want to fucking vomit. And the reason it is because it's literally speaking to the base animal parts. Well, they're not showing you respect like in a patriarchal society. That's not it. What they're doing is they're saying either I'm weak, I'm broken. Now from the animal brain, you're immediately going, I don't like that. That's not part of my herd, it's not part of my group, I don't like that. I don't want something broken and weak in my group because that is going to diminish my resources and add to the stress that I have to try to feed my group. That's going to be a drain. I don't want that. There's nothing wrong with that response. Anybody who says there is full of shit. If you're grabbing a hand and you're holding too long, it means you need. I'm holding on to you. It's not a good signal. That's desperation. That's neediness. If you're willing to do that with me now, you're willing to take more from me later. You touch, but you let go quickly. You don't want me to know what's going on, or you don't like what you touched. Either way, it's not a positive response. You see what's going on? We're breaking through the bullshit. We clasp each other's hands. You try to rotate over. I want to be on top. You've seen Trump do it. That's dominance behavior. I want to be in charge. A lot of times, I rotate under because human beings want to aggressively dominate. I worked as a trash man for years. I was a power lifter. I can break your fucking hand. There's no way around it. Unless you're much bigger than me, and then I can give you a fair run for your money. But when somebody torques like that, I go, yeah, I know what you like, and I'm not submitting. I'm just letting them win. Let them win. Very good. And then I'll put my hand on top of theirs. Oh, look, I topped you. It's like Jenga for assholes. Again, you're learning a lot of information. You're getting someone close enough that you can smell them. That's another one. That was big back in the late 90s. I had said it for years. I didn't come up with it. But that eventually all these women on birth control would come off of birth control and then try to have a baby with somebody they got on birth control. They got in a relationship while they're on birth control, and wildly enough, they don't get along. Can't figure out why. It's fucking hormones, guys. You can smell that you're not compatible because the smell you were getting off of her and the smell she's getting off of you are not right because you're taking hormones and they're fucking up your scent, they're fucking up your brain. This is true across the board. A grip, a couple pumps, you can feel how strong they are. You do not force your strength on them, okay? You look them in the eye, firm, you are present. If you want to succeed in life, master this. Go to a mirror and practice facial expressions. Practice with your friends. Try to understand what the other person is saying. And just because it's something that's done culturally in another country doesn't mean it transfers here. I don't know if you've seen this real quick, if you've seen a lot of these models on Instagram, and I had to ask somebody what this shit was. They do this. know what the fuck that is. It looked like you're trying to receive communion from Peter North at a bukkake festival. It looks fucking weird. And somebody had to explain to me, like, oh, it's cultural to the Japanese, and that's what it means. Right. Do the people making this facial expression necessarily understand this, or do they just want it to be universal? It might be universal eventually, but at the moment it's not. You know, that facial expression in Japan signifies one thing. Right? Sarcasm, I'm not taking you seriously, I'm laughing at you. Do you know what it means in New Zealand amongst the Maori? That means I'm gonna fucking eat you. Not good. These things are not universal. Handshakes have become mostly universal. There are variables in the Middle East you grasp lightly and gently, so that may have to play into it. If you're shaking hands with someone from the Middle East and they do not grasp firmly, that might be the reason. But you want to practice it. And when you practice, when you learn this skill, this tool, you add this to your arsenal, you're going to get a lot further in life. I guarantee it. Take care of each other.